Live. Yeah. Twitch is just forever cursed. Son of a gun. Oh, that one's just me. Bam. That's easy. Sweet. So today is Sunday. I didn't even put it on the slide deck. We're here at CSE466 at ASU. We are starting to talk about dynamic allocator misuse, aka the heat. It's been a week or so since we've talked about memes. This, I think, was a great meme. Does anyone know why this is a great meme? This wasn't a good meme at all. I didn't understand it. I didn't use it. This is the correct syntax in Bash to do a literal. There's a $sign followed by a quote, followed by the symbols. Because if you don't do this, then instead you try and like link hash, it's going to get interpreted, I think, as a comment by Bash. And so it's, hey, somebody learned some esoteric piece of knowledge, but it saved them on the challenge.
But
yeah.
Why the $sign? Isn't it just?
I'm sorry?
Isn't it just single quotes?
So there, you can use just single quotes. So the difference between single quote and double quotes is whether or not it's interpreted. So I think you could get away with
just thinking about the $.
Single quotes. There is a specific syntax where it is $sign quote to be a literal. I'd have to go read the man page to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not sure what the difference is, but there is a difference. Because I've ran into it where I've had to do that, and I was like, oh, I recognize that. ROP was a journey, right? We had the first day of class. Michael was here. You all loved Michael's lecture. Michael gave you some amazing tips, covered some great material. And ultimately what happened is everyone just did the exact same thing on the first half of challenges, which I guess is kind of cool. That's not happening today, right? I'm not Michael. So I'm not going to demo something that's going to just solve the first half of the module. If that's what you're hoping for, that's a shame. PIE. So we've dealt with PIE back in program security. And one of the ways that we could deal with it was if it's not a large brute force to just keep going for it. This concept is going to occur again and again and again throughout the material. This class kind of builds upon itself. And so these tricks that you learn early on will continue to be applied. Like ROP Roulette was hopefully figured out, aptly named, because there's a chance to land where you want in your ROP, right? And so it's kind of like pulling the old. Well, they don't do the handle anymore. The one-arm band, it's not just buttons, but yeah, like a spin of the wheel. And even if you understand that, and you write your for loop to do this 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, you do the math, and you're like, okay, on average, it's supposed to be 4,096 times for your brute force. Did anyone try it exactly 4,096 and miss? A couple people, maybe. Pretty common, right? That is on average. So you probably want to go standard deviation or two out. Do it 10,000 times, 12,000 times, because you could just be the unlucky person, right? Now, we'll see this type of pattern again in later material where you need to understand what's going on and there is an element of brute force. The answer to everything is not an infinite loop, but if you're confident in what you're doing, it might be. Just a general reminder, I'm going to say this every day until we get to it. We are doing an in-person exam, 1021, 1023. By this Friday, we'll release a handwritten, these are the topics and things that you should study and pay attention to. It's going to cover everything up through this module, so through dynamic allocator misuse. You're allowed one 8.5 by 11 handwritten reference / cheat sheet. It does have to be handwritten, can use both sides. I said last week there's going to be an extra credit module. We're in the, Robert has other things he has to do, so it's on the to-do list. It's not at the top of the to-do list. It will come out sometime soon, TM. Somebody asked after class on Thursday, hey, how does this relate to the yellow belt? The answer is these new challenges will be mandatory for the yellow belt, not necessarily mandatory for the class. If you earn your yellow belt before I get new challenges in, you're grandfathered in, you beat me, good for you. But for the purposes of the class, a subset of these challenges will be worth extra credit. And it will only be a subset, not all of them, because some of them are quite easy. Grades. So how did ROP go? This was the class distribution for ROP. One thing that's worth noting, the highest quartile line is actually swallowed in this 100%. So this is our, how are we counting quartiles? 50%, 75%, and then the bottom quartile splits at around like 73. So that's ROP specifically. This isn't that exciting of a graph, but this is module performance over time. So people are doing slightly better as we move forward. ROP, in my opinion, is a pretty easy module because you're again practicing things from memory corruption, program security, that type of stuff. You're just applying it in a clever manner. It tends to do better than the preceding ones. Distribution specifically for modules. So this is the distribution of program security, the distribution of reverse engineering, distribution of ROP. So this graph here is just a vertical version of what I showed you on that first slide, except now we're doing quartiles by color. But you can see that the bulk of the class is carried here. And again, we have a fairly long tail. I'm doing the same math. So if somebody's solve is registered in the class and has no solves, then they aren't included on this plot because as far as I can tell, they aren't participating, right? So it doesn't make sense to count them in the distribution. Somebody asked for this graph in particular, solves over time. It's always an interesting thing to look at to see, like, is there this like great steep movement, before a checkpoint or before the end? There's a bit of one. It's not bad. Honestly, it looks like as a class, at least, people are plugging along at a decent pace. And you just take a break and check mark. I have no complaints here. Course grade over time. So this would be the course grade as of the end of program security. We're at like a 78, 79. Course grade as of the end of reverse engineering, just below an 80, so like a 79. And with ROP, we're at about 80. This is excluding extra credit. So the average student's probably around like an 82, 83. But as I take a look at the distributions, that average again is slightly being skewed. Right? We look at that same data across. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how we're doing in the class. It's pretty much what happens in this class historically. So I don't see any major reasons to change anything. Anyone have any questions about anything there? If not, we'll go and take a look at the heap. We're good. All right. So, who watched Jan's amazing lecture videos? You watch all of them? Okay, good. I tried something a little bit different this go around as far as organizing the content. So there's 3 lecture videos up here. I would strongly encourage watching these 3. I didn't get around to it, but I did say on the Discord, I'm probably going to exclude these 2. So there's 2 heap modules on pwn.college. This is the first one, dynamic allocator misuse. The heap is a complicated beast with a lot of moving parts. This whole module focuses on something called the T-cache, which is the front end of the heap. These lectures talk about stuff that is beyond the T-cache. And so you can watch them. There's like decent content there. But if you start trying to do things that Jan describes there, it's not going to help you with the challenges that you're doing. And so I'm probably going to blow them away and move them somewhere else on the site. Okay, so everything we've done, Everything we've done so far, as far as like memory corruption, has been on the stack, right? They've been kind of these linear overflows on the stack. Most heap challenges look something like this, where they give you a menu, you're allowed to allocate, you're allowed to free, you're allowed to read, you're allowed to write. Now, can anyone tell me what the heap is? If not, it's fine. We'll Control C and we'll poke at that. I'm sorry? It's a bunch of data. Did I make a do.c? All right, we need a do.to.c. So there's two different ways that we can deal with memory. We can deal with memory in a way that is like known at compile time, and it's a local variable in a function. That is what gets stored on the stack in your stack frame. But what if I don't know how much memory I need until runtime? How do we solve that in a program? That is the answer that, or the question that the heap attempts to solve. The way that you interact with the heap at a low level is via two functions in libc. The first is called malloc. Any of you ever use malloc? All right. What does malloc do? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's like a function that allocates size bytes and returns a pointer to the allocated memory.
That is exactly what it does. That is amazing, right? So malloc allows us to say, I want some size of memory. I'll say char star putter equals malloc, and I say I want 100 bytes. We can use GDB on this thing. Not looking good. See? We run it. When we disassemble, malloc is not a syscall. Malloc is a libc function, so we should see it. Did that not? I don't think we're looking at the right binary. Yeah. Because I'm not in the right folder. Include standard lib. All right. Or do I not have Jeff? I should. Permission denied. Sweet. Break main, run. So we don't see, we just call into malloc as a function. And if we were to step through it, we see that we set this argument to be 64 because we want hex 64, which is 100 bytes. And the return value is stored in register RAX. If we take a look at RAX, I get this pointer. This pointer is guaranteed to be at least 100 bytes. And I'm allowed to use that in my program. Now, much like when we talk about the stack and the binary, and we reason about memory, the heap is its own region of memory we see here. And so I get a pointer into this region of memory. the heap's job is to determine what pointer to give me. And it has to track all of the pointers that are given and all of the pointers that are free. When I'm done with a pointer, what I'm supposed to do is call free on that pointer. That informs the heap that my userland program is done with this memory and it can give that away to someone else. Now, what this module is going to be focusing on is how we abuse the functionality of the heap. And that brings us to this right here. So this is doing the same thing as kind of my example program, except now we can request things via a menu instead of having to write it by C. So if I allocate some memory and I say I want 20 bytes, it's going to return a pointer. I'm storing this pointer in, we're calling it slot 0. I'm going to hang on to up to 16 pointers. I can allocate another pointer. Say I want 20 bytes. It's going to return another pointer. Now I have two different options to free here. I have free and free safely. How does one free something in an unsafe manner? So when I free something, that is me telling the heap that I'm done with that pointer. Does that change the value that is stored in my array?
No.
No. So a good practice, if you are writing a userland program that interacts with the heap, is to null that pointer that is located. Where is this pointer located? It's not necessarily immediately clear. It's actually in the BSS because it's a global up here, BSS or global data. Okay, but the pointers that are returned by malloc are not stored in the heap when I'm using them. I have to hang on to them somewhere in my program's memory to utilize and interact with them. And one of the most common mistakes that happens when you're interacting with the heap is freeing something and then failing to null out that pointer, which is what I did here when I just said free slot 0. So in the BSS, I have a pointer to a region of the heap. But the heap thinks that this is memory that it can now reallocate and reuse somewhere else. Well, when we call free on a pointer, the heap is going to reuse that region of memory to track information. There's a few different ways that you can look at this, but here I'm just printing it out. So the pointer that was returned when I called malloc was 7AC0. After I freed it, it has nothing, but the heap has written a key value and a size value. The heap is keeping track of what was the size of this allocation when I asked for it, and I've given it back. This is a way for if I ask for a allocation of the same size, I asked for something that was 20 bytes. If I ask for something that's 20 bytes again, it's going to give me the same pointer because it's hanging on to it and it knows that this is 20 bytes. And so that was 97AC0, which was a free pointer. When I try and allocate something of the same size, I get back that same pointer. The T cache is the data structure that is used to track these freed pointers. Now, I could do this all in GDB, but honestly, the challenge binaries, like the third or fourth one, does a good job in easy mode of showing you the T cache. So if I malloc something, size 20, I malloc something else of size 20, I malloc a third thing of size 20. We'll free 1, free 2, I'll free 3. This is a nice, pretty printout that the easy challenges give you of what is happening in the T-cache. The T-cache is a singly linked list, and it keeps track of the chunks that are freed in the order that they are freed. Now, a singly linked list means that there is a head pointer. We did data structures, we know singly linked list, there's the thing, then there's next, there's the thing, then there's next, and then eventually the next pointer is null. That is what we're looking at here, just printed out in kind of a funky way. So if I scroll up, maybe, cursed, malloc 1, 20, malloc 2, 20, malloc 3, 20, free 1, free 2, free 3. All right. I scroll up. I get the first pointer is given to me as 42C0, 42E0, 4300. Then I freed 1, 2, 3. What is at the head of my linked list? It's going to be this value right here. It's going to be the most recently thing that was freed. When I free something, I push it to the head of the linked list, and then I write the next point. This is a representation of that linked list. So this is our first entry, right? Head is at 4300. There is a next pointer that is at that literal address. So this is telling you at the address 54300 is the address 542E0. This is our next pointer of our linked list. 42E0 is our second entry in the linked list. We go back. What is there? A next pointer to 2C0, which is our third entry to the linked list. Then this next pointer is null. Hopefully that's not super enthralling. And so this challenge prints this out, and we can see that there's really only 3 pieces of metadata that you'll need to interact with when we talk about the T-cache. There's this next pointer, which is the links of this singly linked list. There's the size, which you see here is at the address of the pointer -8. Now, why does this say hex 21? What did I ask for up here? I asked for an allocation of size 20. Size 20 is, what's that? Hex 1, 4?
Yes.
Okay, so why did I get hex 21 in my size? So
It's the metadata.
somebody said something about metadata. And kind of, sort of, maybe, no. There is, the heap is going to give you allocations that are a size multiple of 8. Okay, for this version of libc. So if I'm asking for 20, is that a multiple of 8? No, it's going to round up. It's going to give me something big. There is a case where if I ask for a specific thing, it can go 8 larger. Right? Because the guarantee, the contract when I call malloc isn't that I get something that is exactly 20 bytes in size. It's that I get something that there is at least 20 bytes I can work with. And so it can be something larger, but it'll never be something small. Now that explains why I get hex 20. I said this has to be a multiple of 8. But this is hex 21. That's kind of weird. Well, I'm sorry? Right. So somebody said prev in use. So the least significant nibble here, the bits, since we know we're never going to have a size where those are set, like I can't get an allocation of size 20, like decimal 20. The least significant bits of this size are used as a set of flags. These flags indicate whether or not the chunk is in use or if the chunk is free. But instead of the flag indicating if the current chunk is in use, it's if the previous chunk is in use. Now this can sound a little bit weird. When we think about the heap, there's two different like dimensions that we want to think about. There's the linked list, which is what this nice printout is showing, where we have a head pointer to an entry, to a next pointer, to an entry, to a next pointer, to an entry. But then there's also the, I call it like the physical location, but it's not, probably not the most apt word for it. But there's where in memory are these allocations? Because remember, the heap is just this region of memory. And when I say malloc, it's just going to break off a piece of memory from this region and give me a pointer to it. These pointers are somewhere like near each other. And so when we look at this chunk right here that's free, and it has a size of 21, this one in blue. It says this chunk is hex 20 bits, and the previous chunk is free, or I'm sorry, is in use because the one is set. The previous chunk in contiguous memory. Now, these linked lists are grouped into something called bins. That's why this says size 0 to 24. If I malloc something of size 80, you think it's going to come from this list? No, because that list only contains entries of chunks size 0 to 24 bytes. Now, if I free this one, we see I now have a new TCAP bit with a new head pointer, and it is a new linked list. Do you have any questions about the Tcache linked list? You're chilling, okay. So I'm going to malloc a couple more things. I want to create a specific scenario. Malloc 380, and then I'm going to free just the pointer in 2. We go back to GDB here and I go heap visual map. I now have a lot more going on in my heap. What I'm looking for are these size values. There should be one. Let's see if I find it. 6.1. I just freed one. Now this previous in use bit I said is 1, but all of these are free. How does this make any sense? If I have all of these free chunks and they're all marked in use, but they aren't. They're clearly freed and in the Tcache. The Tcache is an optimization layer to the real part of the heap that we aren't going to talk about in this class. Everything in the Tcache is marked as in use. That's why these sizes all have the 1 in. So you should not encounter a Tcache sized allocation where it is not marked in use. Okay. So I said that the way that very common way that people make a mistake working with the heap is they fail to null out that pointer after they use. Does anyone know what it's called? That type of vulnerability is called. When the pointer is available to be used, we can access it, like I could write to it. If I do malloc, I don't know, 20, and then I free it, and then I'm going to print it so that we have this. I write to it, and let's write a bunch of A's. Let's print it again. Of course, didn't work. Why would it? This has been freed. When it's been freed, the heap thinks it has control over this information. The heap will use it to maintain its internal state. But if I can write to it and use the pointer after it's freed, then that's a vulnerability. It's called a use after free. Oh, what did I do? 5, 0. Number of bytes to write. Let's write 20. Let's give it a bunch of A's. Bam. What? Doesn't like my A's? It says I wrote it. Print 0. Cool. So I freed this pointer and then I overwrote it. Now the heap put something there, but I corrupted that information. This is the idea of dynamic allocator misuse, or how heap exploits work. This region of memory, when we call malloc, it's for me. When we free it, the heap expects that it is the only one that will change this data. So how is this useful to an attacker? I didn't write a specific goal here, so let's aux grep a.out sudo gdb a766. I just want some valid memory address. Let's grab this, the beginning of the BSS. I claim that by using this use after free mechanism, I can make the heap give me a pointer to anywhere I specify. Now, we kind of ran through how the heap behaves normally. I malloc something, I free it, it puts it on this list. The value that is located at a freed pointer is a next pointer, and that is how the heap knows what to return. So in here, I have three freed allocations in my T cache. So the head pointer, the head of the T cache for this size bin points to the first entry, and offset 0 is a pointer to the next entry. If I this guy's broken, crippled. Malloc 1, 20, malloc 2, 20, malloc 3, 20, free 1, free 2, free 3. Can you tell me if I call malloc 20, what pointer I'm going to get? Okay, if I call malloc 2 more times after that, what's the next pointer going to be? I'm sorry? So the first one I'm going to get is whatever's the first entry, which is what's pointed to by the head. I call malloc 2 more times, someone that's not you, what pointer am I going to get?
2, 0.
It's
the next 2 ones. It's E0 and C0.
Oh, but what's okay? The second malloc is going to be 1, 2, C0, right? Now, how does the heap know to give me this pointer? You say it's the head. It would be the head at that time, but looking at this right here, right now, what determines what value that is on this graph tells me what pointer will be 3 mallocs deep? I'm sorry? So the statement is the next value. Which next value?
It's the pointer to the next.
Right. It's the next value of the previous allocation. If I have a use after free, and I can overwrite this, and I overwrite the first 8 bytes, I'm overwriting that metadata that is used by the heap. Now this challenge prints this out all nice and pretty, but we can see this with GDB. If I attach and I say I want to examine like 4 giant hex at 2E0, what we see is that the first 8 bytes here is that next pointer 612C0. And so this is telling me that at this address is this value, which is what determines what the third allocation will be. Agreed? All right, let's mess it up. I want to make the heap give me a pointer that is this address right here. I want to make it give me 9B000, which is clearly not the heap. If we look at the VM map here, the heap is this blue region. I want the heap to give me a pointer to somewhere up here, which is going to be like where the data or BSS section is. How do I do that? Well, the first step is I need to construct a linked list. I need to have something in the T-cache that is a singly linked list that looks like this. So I need to have like 2 or 3 entries. How did I make these 2 or 3 entries? Okay, it was malloc and free, but the order matters here. Do I malloc free, malloc free, malloc free? No. Why?
Because you would allocate the same chunk over.
I'd be mallocing the same chunk over and over. If I set GDB free, we malloc something of 20, I get 32 AC0. If I free it, and then I malloc it, I get that same pointer back, 32 AC0. So I need to be able to hang on to, and tell the heap I own multiple pointers. So I want to malloc something of size 20. I want to malloc something of size 20. I want to malloc something of size 20. Is it important that I made all of these size 20? Yes. Why?
You want to be in the same bin.
I want them to all be touching the same bin. We saw earlier that if I choose a different size, it's going to interact with a different bin, which means it'll be on a different linked list. All I'm trying to do here is create that same scenario that we see right here, where I have 3 freed entries pointing to each other in the T-cache. So I did malloc, malloc, malloc. I'm going to do free. We'll free 0. We'll free 1. It is grumpy. Malloc, 20. Malloc, 20. Malloc, 20. I'm going to free 0. We're going to free 1. We're going to free 2. Now, my claim is that we have now created a similar linked list to what we see right over here. Is there any way I can prove that out using GDB? Well, if you're using Jeff, there is a nice command called heap bins. You probably saw me type it a little bit ago, but we can mention it while we're here. If you type heap bins, pwn.debug has something similar. It will show you the linked list and all of the metadata that the heap is tracking. Now, we are only interacting with the T-cache bins in this course, so you do not have to worry about fast bins, unsorted bins, small bins, large bins. Okay? These won't matter. This is showing us that we have 3 entries in the linked list, and we get to see the order of these chunks. So I've created something similar to that. Now, if I want to corrupt this data and I want to make the heap return a pointer of my choosing, we said, what determines 3 mallocs deep what I get? So it was this next pointer. Can I overwrite that next pointer? Yes, because we didn't safely free these. We didn't null these out. So when I freed the memory, this pointer to this freed heap allocation is still valid. So if I were to write, which is going to read to a pointer, which pointer do I want to overwrite? I freed them in 0, 1, 2. So which pointer do I want to overwrite? Somebody fingered 2. I'll go with 2. 2 works. Remember that the order that we free things, it's a singly linked list to get pushed to the head. We want to overwrite one of the next pointers that currently points to a valid chunk. So if I overwrite slot 2, number of bytes to write, I want to write 8. And if I put some A's in here, okay, I did that. If we now ask the heap what's going on, by calling heap bins in GDB, we see that the size is still 3. But the heap thinks there is that first free chunk, and when it tries to find the next pointer, it sees 6161616161. And so if I were to call malloc twice, it's going to explode. But the reason that it explodes, we're good so far, is because malloc attempts to access and return that pointer that we overwrote. And so we can leverage this to return a pointer to anywhere in memory. Where did I put this? Heap demo, a.out. The important thing to keep in mind is the order of operations. All of these challenges present you some scenario like this, where you can malloc, you can free. In some cases, it's nulled out. In some cases, it isn't. And you need to figure out what are the order of actions to manipulate the heap into such a state that you can get the heap to return something that it wasn't supposed to. Or you can get the heap to write something that it wasn't supposed to, or read something that it wasn't supposed to. And it's all about messing around with the pointers that are used in the singly linked list. What happens when you malloc? What happens when you free? Now, I couldn't return an arbitrary pointer because I could only type in values here. But if we script this, we can overwrite that next pointer to be a pointer to whatever we want. So let's do that real quick. I want to malloc something of size 20. I'm going to do that 3 times. I want to free 0, free 1, free 2. It's the exact same actions I just did. You said then I want to read to index 2. I want to send 8 bytes. This is going to be whatever our target is. Does this thing have Cool. It has no PIE. It does have PIE. Let's user bin GCC F no PIE. No PIE. There we go. I just want to find some address in this binary that we can get this to return that'll be valid. Start I, VM map.
You doing info part mapping table chat?
No, it's because I'm using, I recently switched to BataJeff,
Oh, okay.
and it looks like it's using temp/jeff. And so when I'm sudo GDBing, it's creating this directory as root only. So then when I start GDB like this, it can't access that, and then it bricks. So this will be my target address here, 40300. So what we're doing here is we're creating our linked list. We're doing that with number of mallocs, freeing places the allocations into the T cache. Right here, I'm overwriting the next pointer in allocation 2. This 5 was my write, 2 is my selection, 8 is how many bytes I want to write. I'm then sending P64 of this value here. I should then be able to malloc twice, and that should give me this point. See if we get it all right. Looks like I didn't. You will attach that to 1459. Oh, it's dead. We segfaulted. That's a shame. All right. How would I debug this?
It's gonna pause, so we're not crashing.
Okay, so we could set a pause. Where do you want to send it? Here? Before that, malloc that is going to return my get. We're paused. CSE466 will grep a.out. We'll sudo gdb. I don't need that. I'm in gdb. Sudo gdb a 1589. All right. How do I inspect the state of the heap here? A couple ways I can do it. What do you want to do? Nobody? Heap bins. Perfect. The GDB commands are great until they aren't. They expect the heap to be in a reasonable state. And so like if we look right here, I used heap bins. It says, hey, this is the bin for size hex 20. GDB recognizes there's at least one reasonable chunk, but it thinks that the next pointer is 20001. So clearly I did something bad in my exploit here. I'm not even sure how it's getting those numbers.
What was the other command you used to like see where things were? Like it showed like in memory, like
Heap visualize heap.
okay.
And so this is going to show me the order of these chunks in contiguous method. But I don't see anything super interesting there because there's my 120. We set that free. Look at our backtrace. It's Finney, 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 Finney. All right, I'm back in main. I want to break at. No, let's wait. That was before I sent anything, wasn't it? Oh no, that was before the malloc. So let's pause before we do this right here. Because right here is where I'm trying to overwrite the next pointer. This is the value I'm trying to go. We'll pause right before. We'll look at it before I write. We'll look at it after I write. Pseudo GDBA 1744. Heap bins. All right, the heap is in a sane state. Set it free. That was before the send line. So let's get back up to main. Let's heap bins. And now I get, no, that's still a reasonable state. No, it's not. So somehow I'm writing this 2001, you agree? I'm not sure where it's going wrong, to be honest. It's something somewhere in my IO. Send versus send line. 528 400. Oh, wait. No, it's not. We are doing what we think we're doing. Am I overwriting the forward pointer or not? Where am I? What was I trying to set it to? This value right here, 403000. And I'm trying to overwrite it on 2. When 2 is the most recently thing free, which means when I look here, we look at the head, which is that index 2 that I most recently freed, and the next pointer here is 40300. So why does this say 20001? I'm sorry?
Is that what you're sending next?
I'm not sending it. That's just what happens to be there, right? So the heap isn't smart. The heap doesn't know, right? That this was our address that we just said, I want the heap to give me this. The heap doesn't know that this pointer isn't in the heap, right? This is a pointer into, I guess read only, I picked the wrong address, but whatever. The heap is just going to say, yeah, whatever is at that address is a next pointer. And then whatever is there, we'll just pretend that's a chunk. And whatever's there, we're going to pretend that's a next pointer. And then whatever that points to, we're going to pretend that's a chunk. The heap doesn't sanity check any of this. It just blindly assumes that this data will not be corrupted. And so we can corrupt these next pointers to get the heap to return a pointer to anywhere that we specify. Why is this useful?
To get the flag.
To get the flag. Exactly. A lot of these challenges are structured as, hey, there is a secret value located somewhere in memory. Right? Maybe we tell you, maybe it's no PIE. So there's somewhere in memory that you need to read, or there's somewhere in memory that you need to write. So your goal with performing these mallocs and frees is to try and get a pointer, to manipulate it so that you get a pointer to an arbitrary location. This idea of malloc, free, use after free, malloc is like an insanely common pattern. That is how you get an arbitrary pointer if you have use after free. Now, whether or not you can read or write, that isn't based upon the heap. That's based upon what the challenge or the binary is going to do with those pointers. So that's the most straightforward way of abusing the heap. Now there's another value hiding in this printout that I didn't talk about, right? We said, hey, there's the size, there's a next pointer, and by corrupting this next pointer, I can make the heap give me whatever I want. And give me an arbitrary pointer. Anyone know what this key value is? All right. What do you got? Okay, so the statement is it's the pointer to the Tcache per thread struct. And that is true for this challenge. The Tcache per thread struct is a pretty simple data structure. It's two arrays. It's an array of sizes, or I'm sorry, not sizes, counts, and it's an array of pointers, your head pointer. That's all this Tcache per thread struct is. Now, the fact that this is a pointer to the Tcache per thread struct is not super important. Because in any newer version of libc, like probably 2/3 of the way through the challenge, it is not the Tcache per thread struct. You got a question?
My question is what is it when it's not?
It is just random bytes.
Oh, down stuff doesn't show.
So if we were to look at, let's see what version of libc this thing is. There's probably a better way of doing this, but the earlier challenges used libc 2.31. In libc 2.31, that key value, they're like, hey, we just need some value. We need some value that we know what it is to be located. And so they use a pointer to the Tcache per thread struct because like, hey, we got this hanging around. Let's just write this value. But it turns out if you're a hacker, right, or you're trying to abuse the heap, and this key value is here, could you leak this out? Or if you had to use afterward? Yeah. And if you can leak this out, I suddenly have a address in that's contiguous with the heap. I can now start reasoning about memory. I can start calculating offsets. I can start doing things that I otherwise couldn't. The Tcache per thread struct is also an interesting target for corruption itself. I don't believe that any of the challenges here target the Tcache per thread struct in creative ways, but it was a vector of exploitation. Was once you could leak this, you could then start corrupting pointers that are in this structure. And so newer versions of libc just use random bytes instead. The importance of this key value isn't the fact that it's the Tcache per thread struct. It just needs to be some constant that they can write. Does anyone know what they use that constant for? I did it already, not intentionally though.
Sure.
Yes, it's used to check for double frees. So if I malloc 1, I free 1, and then I try and free 1 again, it says double free. Right? We've detected that you're trying to free something that's already been free. And the question is, well, how does the heap know that I already freed this? You think it just keeps track of all the pointers? It could do that, right? Like if I did malloc 1, 20, malloc 2, 20, malloc 3, 20, and we free, 20. We free 1, we free 2, we free 3. You could envision, like if you were trying to do this check, I would start at the head, I would check if it's this pointer, I would check if it's this pointer, I would check if it's this pointer, right? I could just loop through until I get to the end and check it. If you've done like data structures and algorithms, is that very fast? No. The heap goes through cycles, as Jan talks about in some of the lecture videos, where the details of how the heap works changes across libc versions. And the reasons for these changes are often security motivated, but they are also performance motivated. And so maybe there's some super secure version of the heap, but if we're going to check all these, it's very slow. in a real world program, you're going to be doing a lot of mallocs and frees. And so you want to be as performant as you can while being as reasonably secure as you can. And so they don't do for the Tcache, like iterating through this whole list. Because I wouldn't just have to check through this list, would I? Like, what if I malloc something really big? Let's malloc, I don't know, 480, and I free 4. If I want to check if a pointer's already been freed, do I need to just check this list? No, I need to check this list. I need to check this list. And you can imagine a more complicated program where we're mallocing and freeing a whole bunch of things of a whole bunch of different sizes. And this becomes this like very complicated thing to navigate, right? That becomes crazy. Instead, the Tcache does something much simpler. If I malloc something, let's malloc into 1, something of size 20. So I just popped off this pointer from the head of the Tcache there. See that right there? I'm gonna PSAUX, we'll grep for this challenge, and we'll attach GDB to this real quick. What I want to do is I want to examine like 4 giant hex at that address. What do you notice is missing? So when it was in the Tcache, it's just out of view. When it was in the Tcache, 6300, at a next pointer, that was 62E0. And then it had this key value of 6010, right? I then malloced it away from the Tcache. And so I told the heap, this pointer is going to be mine. What did the heap do to that region of memory? Well, this is where my next pointer is, right? This was that key value at +8. It's gone. Can I free this pointer? Yeah, I just malloced it. The way that the heap knows if for the Tcache, that an allocation has already been freed is it takes the base address +8 and it just checks it if it's this magic constant. That's all it does. And so this means that if I have a use after free, right, I can write to a pointer after it's freed, I can take advantage of that. So let's free, where did I put this? 1. I'm going to scan F into 1. I'm going to just give it a whole bunch of A's. We can get away with A's this time. Okay. I'm then going to try and free 1. The heap is very confused right now. I freed the same address twice. And so this address was the next pointer, what was in head. So that when I pushed it to itself, I've created an infinite linked list that is self-referential for the time being. The key values are there. The heap thinks it's all good. Malloc 1, size 20. You get that pointer. Let's malloc 2, size 20. Yeah, you get that pointer again. Let's malloc 3, size 20. 3 times, we get that same pointer. Can I do this a 4th time? I think so. Can I do it a 5th time? Yes or no?
It's like no.
Why?
The next pointer is no.
You say the next pointer is null. I don't think that's the case. So if we look up here, this is my infinite next pointers, right? It points to itself, which points to itself, which points to itself. And so when we pop off this singly linked list, the head pointer is still going to be C6300. So the head pointer didn't become null.
I'll look at the other bin. Yeah. So cool.
Oh, if you're looking, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. This is a troll bin. We're doing everything here on size 20. And so the next pointer would still be that. And so that's what would go to the head when I pop this off.
Why did it only show 4 initially? Is that just like the work of how you're displaying this? It showed the first one, it showed like 4 allocations. The count is 4. The count is 4? Oh, okay.
So you bring up an interesting point. Well, there's this other value in addition to the next pointer and the key that comes into play here on what is the heap going to give me. It's this count value. Okay. So even though my linked list here on the T cache for size 20 is infinitely long, right? And it's self-referential. It is only going to pull from that linked list when the count is greater than 0. And so if I were to do this a 5th time, I'm going to get some arbitrary pointer. It's not the exact same pointer. This was C6300, and now I have C6380. And so we can play around with the metadata of the heap in a bunch of different ways. But in order to exploit it to pull off what you want, you need to kind of mess around with, and I'd encourage you to do that on, this is level, it's like I did level 6. But any of these challenges that are easy, that have multiple slots where you can malloc and free and choose a bin or choose where to store it, just sit down and just malloc, free, and see how these things move around. Much like with the stack pivoting challenges, where I literally did a stack pivot and like walked through what is the logic there, you might have been like, all right, cool, I can just leave ret. And then you tried to solve the stack pivoting challenges. And there's a little bit more thought to it because you had to understand the mechanics of what's actually going on in your mallocs and frees or in your pivot. The same idea here. These challenges aren't all just going to be malloc, free, malloc. Oh, I get a pointer, right? Like we're going to make you be a little bit more clever in, okay, well, when I malloc, what happens, right? What if is the count correct? Does this key value, when does that exist? Right? When does the key value get rid? I saw when I have this 80 chunk. So right now there is a key here at this address. If I malloc this, let's put it here. What size is this thing? Say 80. Is that key value still there in memory? Somebody says no. And they'd be correct. So this is where that next pointer hypothetically would be. This is where that key value hypothetically would be. The heap works by trusting that every user that interacts with the heap is going to follow the rules perfectly. If you call malloc, the region of memory is yours. If you call free, that region of memory is mine, and you will not touch it. It's a very trusting API. Because of that, any errors or mistakes in that like contracted behavior between the user land program and the heap can result in exploitation for the most part. So that's what we got for today. Any questions about what you've seen here? It covers a decent amount of stuff to get you through the first set of challenges. Well, we're chilling. Take a look at Twitch. Twitch wants to talk about Allocator and calloc and other things you don't have to worry about. These challenges are nice and boring, where all we do is we malloc and free. All right, with that, we'll let you go. I'll see you all Thursday.